Hey, everybody. You're about to hear a brief retelling of the movie After the Dark. Enjoy watching and subscribe, friends. James and Petra wake up together early in the morning following a passionate night. James chooses to stay in bed a little bit longer as Petra rushes out to get to class. He oversleeps as a result, and by the time he wakes up again, it's late. When he finally arrives at his philosophy lesson, instructor Mr. Zimmett almost refuses to let him in, but in the end he unlocks the door. He rushes across the city as quickly as he can. As today is the last day of classes, Mr. Zimmett would want the pupils to share their most memorable thought exercise. Chips brings up the endless monkey theorem, which states that a monkey will ultimately type the full text of Hamlet if given an indefinite amount of time and a typewriter. The trolley problem, in which you have to press a lever to determine whether a train would kill one person or four, is brought up by Jack. They transform that conundrum into the obesity man problem for laughs, in which the goal is to stop the trolley by pushing a fat guy across the rails. Georgina enjoys the ignorant happiness paradox, when a person purposefully hangs over the city's tallest structure to see whether their friends will come to their aid. But the buddies back off because they fear that if they try to pull them up, they'll be pulled over by themselves. The individual falls and survives, but they are left wondering if ignorance is bliss or if it is actually better to know that their friends wouldn't help them. Zimmett determines that as a last thinking exercise before the school year ends, the students will have to imagine a bunker that will provide them with refuge for a year and suppose there is an oncoming atomic holocaust. Zimmett starts the story, asking everyone to picture a region engulfed in nuclear explosions using their imaginations. Zimmett highlights the issue: there are just enough supplies for 10 people, as he leads them on a fictitious tour of the bunker. With 20 pupils in the class, they must choose who to admit in and who to keep out. Moreover, they don't have much time to make this decision before the atomic radiation hits them. Georgina declines to play because she believes it will be like talking about eugenics, but she agrees to play after Zimmett explains how horrible and agonizing radiation death is. Petra, who understands that Zimmett cannot harm her by slightly reducing her scores, similarly declines to engage and even gets up to go. Petra is forced to stay when Zimmett threatens to deduct James' marks, which would cause him to fail the class. Zimmett then gives out cards with each student's randomly assigned occupation for the activity. He opens the box first for James, then for Petra. Zimmett returns to the desk to cough before giving James a card. He then coughs against the desk before passing out cards to each person. Now the students can look at the professions they got. All these jobs vary in themes, from harpist and wine auctioneer to astronaut and chemist. When Toby says that he is a published poet, Zimmett kills him and admits that he stole the gun from the bunker before he can even continue speaking. Zimmett argues that since he wouldn't have been able to enter the bunker in the first place, a poet is useless when mankind has to be rebuilt. Doing this is more compassionate than having him perish from radiation. Zimmett adds that although he is a participant in the exercise, his true identity is unknown, thus he should be viewed as a wild card. Each student then argues for their right to go into the bunker before casting their vote. Petra the structural engineer, James the farmer, Georgina the orthopedic surgeon, Chips the carpenter, Jack the scientist, Bonnie the military, Andy the electrician, Poppy the psychologist, and Omaseed the senator are the first 9 selections, and these are the ones they believe will help them survive. Additionally, 9 individuals are swiftly eliminated from the game due to their lack of utility: zoologist Vivian, fashion designer Beatrice, gelato maker Parker, real estate agent Covey, harpist Russell, hedge fund manager Plum, housekeeper Nelson, wine auctioneer Mitzi, and astronaut Yoshiko. The opera vocalist Utami and Zimmett will compete for the last spot. Petra believes that having a wild card is dangerous, but Jack argues that having an opera singer is a luxury and that he would rather take a chance with Zimmett, who could know something important. After Zimmett triumphs, the groups adjourn for 5 minutes, during which they reposition the desks to simulate a farewell conversation. They find out that Zimmett killed everyone who didn't receive a space when they heard gunshots, claiming that this was the only humanitarian thing to do. Astonished, Petra tells James in a hushed voice that she no longer wants Zimmett in the bunker. James arranges for everyone to pick plants before entering the bunker, saying that they would be replacing them once they emerge. As everyone is divided up for the gathering, James approaches each person individually and explains his idea. When the moment comes, Zimmett is left outside while the party enters the bunker and disables the exterior keypad before shutting the door. Then they examine the various rooms, which include literature, a gym, a daybed, an artificial garden, and other purported antidepressant items. As everyone settles into their cots for the night, James finds Petra on the large bed and assures her that they can overcome any obstacle together. When Petra returns to check on Zimmett after James goes to sleep, she discovers that he is slowly burning due to the radiation. Unexpectedly, Zimmett displays a piece of paper that states that the exit code is unique to him. Petra phones the gang right away, and they start debating what to do because they're not sure if they should believe Zimmett. They ultimately choose to disregard him, and they start spending the year in the bunker. They can hardly keep themselves occupied with menial work since it's so uninteresting. Zimit's body is slowly decomposing, and every day Petra comes to check on it. Occasionally, a dog comes to chew on it. When the year comes to an end and the gang prepares to leave, they find that Zimit was correct. The lock requires an exit code. The pupils then attempt to break down the door using various techniques, but to no effect. With the little resources they still have, they attempt to live for a few more days, but quickly run out, so they choose to take their own lives in order to have a more compassionate conclusion. Zimit declares in class that the experiment was a failure and discloses that he builds bunkers. In reality, he is the only one with the code since he created that specific bunker. The pupils wish to give it another go, and this time they envision a different setting, Mont Bromo. Petra realizes that Zimit is attempting to acquire a pistol once more. The card's second hidden feature, which might affect the votes, is then shown. Despite receiving less votes due to his sexual orientation, James' agricultural expertise still allows him to be admitted. Georgina the surgeon is not included this time since she was exposed to the Ebola virus. She's welcomed because Plum, the hedge fund manager, often travels with a bag of gold. Despite being sterile, Chips the carpenter is welcomed once more due to his abilities. Petra, the structural engineer, gets spared because she is also an electrical engineer. Andy, the electrician, gets turned down after disclosing he has an extremely uncommon illness that might kill him at any time. Poppy the psychologist is excluded since she is unable to bear children. Once again, Vivian the biologist is left out when it is revealed that she supports PETA. Jack the scientist is once again welcomed since he won the genetic lottery and will live a long and healthy life. Since Georgina is no longer their doctor, Covey, the real estate agent, who is also a midwife, is allowed to remain this time. Because Parker the gelato maker lacks an additional attribute, he is left out while someone else has 2. Opera singer Utami has 2, she can speak 7 languages, but she will be excluded because she will have a throat tumor that will prevent her from speaking for 3 years. Even though Mitzi the wine auctioneer has an IQ of 200, she gets excluded once more. Beatrice the fashion designer, who made a successful line of bamboo apparel for ladies, is now again marginalized, and the autistic harpist Russell experiences the same fate. Oma Seed, the senator, is rescued once more since she will be the first female chief judge of the Supreme Court. Bonnie, the soldier, is saved again and possesses eidetic memory. Although his extraordinary kindness doesn't assist him at first, Nelson the housekeeper stays when Petra says they need more guys and Oma Seed counters that they need more middle-class workers who are diligent workers. Zimit kills the poet Toby again as he is ready to reveal his characteristic, telling him that this slot is for him because the gang still doesn't know the code. The individuals who were left outside try to flee as soon as Zimit hands Georgina the keys to a truck in an attempt to save themselves. Regretfully, the explosion strikes the car. Just in time, the selected ones also start racing to the bunker, and the dull routine of existence resumes. Later that night, Petra wakes up and notices that James isn't in bed. She tries to find him, but when she does, he's flirting with Jack, who is apparently an out-of-touch girl. They decide it's time to talk about how they would come together to breed after Petra, who is injured, hurries outside to inform the others what she witnessed. Jack and James won't take part since they can't even pretend to be in a relationship with a woman in order to have children, but Chips doesn't need assistance because he is infertile. Both Oma Seed and Nelson as well as Bonnie and Covey are partnered together. Petra agrees to do it with Zimit as payback for her boyfriend, disbelieving James when he claims she still loves him. The 3 couples get flirtatious at the same moment that the planet is being destroyed by explosions outside. Zimit notes that they need to switch spouses after 10 weeks of no pregnancies, stating the female should have several partners. Bonnie declines, arguing that their use of reasoning to solve problems is excessive and that her permission shouldn't be superseded. After leaving the room, Zimit reappears with a gun and threatens to kill everyone but Bonnie. While Zimit is sidetracked, Jack grabs him and forces him to drop the pistol while the gang flees. Jack has managed to hide behind a corner. The boys battle until Zimit overcomes Jack, but Bonnie soon takes it up and holds Zimit at gunpoint. But Jack strikes back, using a pin to stab Zimit in the ear as payback. Bringing everyone down with him, Zimit, distraught, runs to the front door and enters the code to open it. Once more, the class has failed the task. James is now more dubious and wonders why Zimit agreed to do the exercise. He brings up the odd cough he had when he gave Petra and Zimit the rolls, and he also notes that Zimit hasn't coughed since. Abruptly, James rushes up to the desk, snatching the box before Zimit can reach it to unlock it and reveal the secret. It turns out that James and Petra's cards were tampered with and the box had concealed sections, so they would always receive the same results, a homosexual farmer and a double engineer. When James asks Zimit why he despises him specifically, Zimit uses Plato's cave as an analogy. In this metaphor, a man is shackled to a wall for his whole life and, presumably, experiences only shadows and echoes, representing the actual noises and appearance of reality. When the guy is freed one day, he realizes that everything around him, including shadows and echoes, is an illusion and that bodies and voices are what creates the shadows. Zimmett claims that the exercise is intended to confront James with how his privilege has ill-prepared him for the actual world, but James doesn't believe him when he says that this metaphor is similar to him. Zimmett might have turned him into a worthless job like a florist so he could have been kicked out right away, but the fact that he is a homosexual farmer indicates that Zimmett deliberately intended for him to endure more pain. Just then, Petra steps in to break up the quarrel, insisting that they undertake the exercise a third time, with James playing florist. They are now transported by their thoughts to an island where the end of the world is not yet upon us. As usual, Zimmett hears a disturbance as he heads to the bunker to retrieve a weapon but ignores it. Petra follows him outside and gives him a hug, letting him know that she understands how difficult it has been for him. Then, because she has a plan, Petra urges everyone to trust her to decide who gets to enter the bunker. Once everyone is in agreement, Petra makes her decisions and justifies them. Because a brilliant wine auctioneer would be wise enough to pack both red and white wine on a trip, guaranteeing that everyone had a pleasant time, Mitzi is rescued. Beatrice is spared because attractive clothing increases one's sense of worth, which spurs production and may even save civilization. Toby is spared since he brought cards and would amuse everyone, as his second talent turns out to be champion poker player. Russell is also spared because a lot of people view autism as a blessing. Georgina was merely exposed to Ebola, so Petra invites her in and promises to pray for her even though they don't have any proof she has the disease. Even if the opera singer Utami may become silent in 3 years, her singing has the ability to put everyone to sleep, saving her own life as well. Because to his ideal genes, Jack is accepted, but he is sad that his orientation will prevent him from finding a mate. Parker is also spared since he emerges from the closet at that same moment. Petra chooses James when there are just 2 slots remaining. In the classroom, everyone sits together as a team as the selected ones go inside the bunker. Zimmett has been whining all along, and with every decision he makes, he pushes Petra's grade closer to failing, but when he sees the pointless people going into the bunker, he snaps and grabs his rifle. He doesn't locate it, though, because it turns out that Petra took it during their earlier hug. When she hands it back to him, she reveals it isn't loaded. Petra shoots Zimmett again, claiming she doesn't want him to suffer like the last time. However, James suddenly threatens Zimmett with a gun. It turns out that Zimmett was the source of the disturbance within the bunker. Zimmett claims that only he knows the exit code because of desperation to survive, yet on the previous run, Bonnie utilized her exceptional memory to commit it to memory. Zimmett retreats, beaten. Next, Petra tries to offer Bonnie the final position, but because she declines, Chips moves up. In this version of the exercise, James is no longer the same, and he asks Petra to accompany them. When she declines, stating she'll take the boat and attempt to escape the radiative zone, Chips reveals he has the boat keys. Quickly moving, Chips shoves Petra through the door and exchanges places with her before it shuts. Petra carries on with the thinking exercise, adding that even though they were living in terrible conditions, they managed to have fun in the bunker for the entire year because they had cards, wine, Shakespeare plays, and unique poems, all while the rest of the party raced to the boat to leave the island. Petra is told by James how much he loves her, but she is hesitant to say the same back. Russell plays a harp made of the fragments left behind from the machines that broke into the bunker, and Utami sings to complete the beautiful evenings. After a year, when the gang emerges from the bunker, they find that the explosives never went off. Zimmett claims they will all perish since none of them have the necessary technological skills to exist on an island, but Petra counters that even though their lives will be brief, they will be content and ready to greet death when it comes. James is about to explode a rocket that has suddenly fallen on the beach when Zimmett appears and fires to stop him. It turns out that he had discovered a tunnel and descended far enough to escape the radiation. He had been living off of whatever he could scavenge there for the last year. Zimmett threatens to kill James with his final bullet because he can't allow them to do something as ludicrous as wiping out the human species, but the other survivors step forward one by one to form a shield in front of him. They take advantage of the opportunity to detonate the bomb, which destroys the entire island. Zimmett returns to class feeling embarrassed by the most recent exercise, but Chips interrupts him to provide his own solution as well. According to him, the boat made it far enough to escape the explosion, and he ended up being the sole man with 6 ladies to himself. When the group asks Chips what happened to the other 3 guys, he explains that Andy had an accident with the palm tree, Nelson was attacked by a barracuda, and Covey drowned. Since there is always a chance of conception even when one is infertile, Chips taps a new female every day in this finale. When Zimmett finally ends the lesson, every student leaves except for Petra, who charges Zimmett with attempting to punish James with the exercise. Zimmett feels James is beneath Petra because, as it turns out, he has been having an affair with her. Petra tells James that she loves him and that intelligence isn't the only thing that counts, therefore he shouldn't be penalized for something he doesn't even know about. After sending Zimmett a farewell kiss, Petra departs. After that, Zimmett finds himself alone in the school and starts rehearsing a number of scenarios for what might happen if he went to his office. There are times when he finds his pistol and there's a shot heard within the building, and other times he just eats.